have a client that was trying to get sold this whole strategy to save the farm. And they sent me the Excel spreadsheet and there was no compound interest on the spreadsheet and the interest was never getting paid back. And the client had no idea, none. I said, you're not going to save the farm, but you're going to lose it. And so this is what they're not telling you with this strategy, because they would have made about a $2 million commission had they sold that to him. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you very much for being here. All right, Tarisa and I are back. And we're just going to talk about whatever Tarisa asks me questions on today. What's going on in the world of life insurance? Okay, hi, Tarisa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm tired. I'm tired.
Well, let's get fired up. We can have our own little dose of conversational caffeine.
Yeah. I like that.
Right?
We should have cups made.
We should. Conversational caffeine.
I was going to pick up my coffee cup, but I've already had that today and I'm still tired. This is how you know that you are passionate about what you do when you are dog dead tired. And it's like, let's just say, it is 2:00 in the afternoon. It's my nap time, people. But let's just say it's midnight and you're super tired and somebody asks you about IBC and you're like, whoa, got my second breath. Let's talk about it. That's how it works for me. And so I know, that is when people know you are passionate about what you do, is because you can't ever stop.
It's true.
So yeah. So I'm tired. I look tired.
If
y'all are watching on YouTube or on Spotify, because yes, there's video on Spotify. So if you're watching us there, you're going to see my tired face, but that does not mean I'm not going to get fired up today. So Tarisa, what are you seeing out there in the big bad world of life insurance?
Okay, so this is a topic I'm also super passionate about. So I'm excited to get into this with you. But basically, especially in the real estate world, it's been kind of touted that IUL is the best product for infinite banking. And as we know, based on previous podcasts and just information out there, it's not 100%. It's just not the case. And I think it's really important to dive into the entire story. Like, okay, well, how are these numbers looking this way? And let's dive into the mechanics of that and things to warn people about, because life insurance is not some magic tool, right? It has mechanics, it has working parts. And so we have to kind of dive into that to figure out, okay, well, how are they making these illustrations look so beautiful? And what things should people look out for? So I'm excited to get into that.
I'm going to add very quickly. We kind of sound doom and gloom. In the last few, we're like, woo, we're like the doom and gloom ladies talking about all the things that are wrong out there. Now, don't mistake what we're talking about as doom and gloom, because this is education. And this is the due diligence that you guys don't know probably where to go to get the truth about what's happening. So all we're doing is saying, hey, this is what somebody else is saying. Now let's look at the opposite side of that and what may not be disclosed. So don't think it's not that we have this main objective to just bash on other people that are selling life insurance or other products. It's just, hey, these are the facts. And so we just want to share those. Okay, go on.
No, I like that preface because I'm a very positive person as well. But I like to be an informed person.
A very chipper individual.
So yeah, to your point, we don't want to be negative or anything. It's just we want people to be informed, because Mary Jo and I, we love information. We love educating ourselves constantly on different topics. So this is, I think, our gift to anyone listening. Okay, so let's get into the facts. So Mary Jo, if I have an IUL illustration and it is looking insanely better than a whole life illustration, how would you say that that's possible? If I know nothing and I'm looking at these two things side by side, I'm obviously going to lean towards the one where the numbers are looking way better for the amount of money that I'm putting in.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's because of rate of return, right? They're looking at, in an IUL, they're illustrating it as in a assumption basis of, hey, you're going to make 7, 8, 9% rate of return. it's not compare. I mean, you're comparing apples to oranges when you're trying to compare an IUL to a whole life, but it is assumptions of the market. It's like saying, oh, Mary Jo, why would I put money into a whole life policy when I can get a 7, 8, 9% rate of return in the market? If you can do that in the market, then go buy yourself an IRA, right? If you're looking at a whole life policy saying I can do 7, 8, 9%, possibly, because those are all assumptions and the money is reflective of the market, why don't you just go buy term and invest the difference? Because it's an assumption. Both of those are assumptions. Don't risk your life insurance on that assumption. But back to the question. Why does it look better? Because they're looking at higher rates of return. And you and I both know we can't give you a 7, 8, 9% rate of return in whole life. That's not going to happen.
Well, and I think the key point too here is that they're assuming that rate of return in an IUL illustration year over year. So it's assuming that 7, 8% every single year without there being any dips in the market. And anyone who follows anything financial related knows that that's just not the case. So we are kind of running into the same issue that we normally do with looking at qualified plans and how it's illustrated that there's just an average rate of return and not the actual. So I think it's strange to me that that's...
And there's no guarantees.
100%. Yeah. It's strange to me that that's allowed financially. It's just like, okay, well, based off of past market performance, here's what you can expect. And it's like, well, can we? Can we expect that? Because the market is a lot more volatile. Like, what if you had a zero year, right? So another thing that they're doing in these IUL illustrations that people need to look out for, and there's one gentleman in particular that I'm thinking about, but what he'll do is he'll assume that you're taking out a loan for the cash value and then overfunding that same policy. So it makes the cash value look so much better, but it's because you are loaning against that policy and then putting it back in the policy. So your cash input is so much greater on the illustration than it normally would be if you're just funding it regularly. But what happens is, oh, sorry, go. You look like you want to say something.
So I do have a question.
Okay.
So when they show this, are they showing the loan value as well? Or are they just focusing on, hey, you've borrowed cash value to do extra money year one, right?
Right.
But we're focused on the increase in cash value, but are we focused on the fact that we had a loan? Like, are they showing that piece too, or they're just showing more cash value?
They're just showing more cash value. So there's kind of like the danger in that is it's like, okay, well, what happens when you have a loan to account for? You have to pay interest. So what you're doing is you're creating this huge loan inside of a policy. And we don't recommend this in our whole life policies, right? We don't recommend it in general because you can't steal the peas. You have to make sure that you're putting money back into the policy. But what's happening is they're creating this huge loan and not talking about interest cost.
Well, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. But if we're focusing on, and here's the problem, we're focused on the new cash value amount. We're focused on a rate of return, which it's not about a rate of return. So we're focused on the new cash value. We're focused on the rate of return, but we have zero focus on the loan. We have zero focus on how to pay back the loan. We have zero focus on the interest on the loan. And then they're not telling them that interest compounds year to year on the loan. Like the loan is not talked about, except take the loan, but then we don't talk about how to pay it back. And if we've borrowed cash value to put more money in year one, we didn't have the money externally to do so. So how is that loan getting paid back if we don't have the money externally to even put it in? Because typically, and I don't know about IULs, I'm going to assume they're so flexible. You know, it's what you hear. Whole life isn't flexible. IULs are so flexible. And so if that's the case, in a whole life policy, we have 12 months to add extra money year one. So if we didn't have the money over 12 months, where's the money coming from to pay the loan back to put more money in year one? Or is it, oh shit, you don't have to worry about it, Tarisa, because you're going to out earn what you're going to pay in interest?
Yeah, basically the argument is like that there's a positive arbitrage. And it's like, okay, well, if that's yeah, I know. It's irritating because people are going to get so screwed by doing this. It's like, why
And
would you?
What's the loan interest rate?
I don't recall specifically what in this particular what
Did
this
they
guy
talk
said.
about it?
No, he didn't talk about it.
Well, that's why you don't recall, because they didn't even talk about it.
He's like, it's magic. Don't worry about it. You give me $100,000 and you'll have millions of dollars by the time you're 65.
Okay. In a whole life policy where there are guarantees, you can't do that and not pay that loan back, or at least the interest on that loan, because you can't arbitrage it. So the only reason they're saying, oh, you can go ahead and arbitrage that and you can make money on that deal is because you're going to make 7, 8, or 9%, which you're not every year over year. And the loan is probably what, 5 or 6? And
Would be
so,
my guess.
or then they're going to play this game. Well, there's a difference. You're making 7 and the loan is 4, so you're really only paying 3. No, it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
That's simple math. It doesn't work that way, because it depends how you're paying that loan back.
Or if you're paying it back at all, because if you don't have the proper person in your corner telling you about the full story, then how are you being set up for success as the customer? Because if I'm thinking, oh, I can just how he talks about it is the life insurance company is going to match you. It's like, no, they're not matching you. You're borrowing money and there's an interest cost to that needs to be accounted for. Otherwise, you're going to accelerate that cash value in your policy, like just deteriorating over your lifetime when you need insurance the most. So it's like, okay, it feels very misleading is, I think, the most polite word I have that comes to mind. And I'm laughing, but it's not.
That it feels misleading, Tarisa, because it is misleading. Like, Tarissa's the nice one here. This is 100% misleading and super unfortunate for people that just buy that and don't actually run the numbers. Because I've seen this stuff. I've actually, and maybe we've talked about it before, but I have a client that was trying to get sold this whole strategy to save the farm. And they sent me the Excel spreadsheet and there was no compound interest on the spreadsheet and the interest was never getting paid back. And the client had no idea, none. I said, you're not going to save the farm, but you're going to lose it. And so this is what they're not telling you with this strategy. Because they would have made about a $2 million commission had they sold that to him. So why would I tell you about the strategy? Like, why would I give you all the information? Because when it collapses and you lose the farm, oh, that sucks to be you. You didn't do your due diligence.
Yeah. It's something to definitely look out for. I remember having a conversation with this gentleman who was like avidly selling IULs and selling them in this way. And I don't know, I just kind of like keep my cards close. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to give you everything that I know, but I just was like, hey, have you read Nelson's book? And he was like, yeah, this is the concept. And I was like, well, if you actually read his book, you would note that he says he doesn't recommend using that product for infinite banking. I was like, and if you're teaching people how to use this product in this way, you're stealing the peas, because how is this loan getting paid back? And he was like, well, there's positive arbitrage. And I was like, no, that's not correct. And he was like very irritated with me.
And if you've read the book, you understand that's not the concept. That's the product. And that's the tool to use for a concept, not this concept. It's a tool to use, but it's not the concept. So
it's like, why would you?
Did you glance over the book?
Right.
Did you read the book once? But
how's your reading comprehension?
Did you do any due diligence? Like, and here's the thing. If you read the book, you also understand it's not about a rate of return. And when we're looking at IULs or any UL product ever, it's all about rates of return. That's all they talk about is a rate of return. My head is going to explode over this rate of return stuff someday. I swear to God, it just makes me so mad because it is not about what's about the seen and the unseen. If we can go get money, if we can go make a better return outside the policy, great. But what we're doing is in these UL products is what I just said earlier. We're tying our death benefit to the market. Why would we do that? Why wouldn't we get a guaranteed product that we know we have a death benefit and then go do something else to get your rate of return? If you think your IUL is going to get 7, 8, or 9%, then why don't you just get 7, 8, or 9 in an IRA? Like if they're or an indexed something or another in the market, right? Why wouldn't you just go there? Why are you tying it into life insurance? That's the piece I don't understand. Is people that buy universal life products want a rate of return? Why don't you just go to the market to get the rate of return in a market product?
I think people just are fascinated or like the idea of combining things because it seems easier or more simple. And it's like, you're just kind of complicating and convoluting a lot of things that you don't really have to. And to your point, it's like there are very few things in life that are guaranteed. Death is one of them, unfortunately, unless anyone has a secret serum. Yeah, and whole life. I say death, whole life, taxes. So 3 things. A proper whole life.
Right.
So why would you, to your point, want to take something that's not guaranteed and then try to force it to do something that it was never really intended for? All of those products came about because the stock market was invented. So it was their way of trying to be competitive with what people were putting their money in that they thought was much sexier at the time. And I think, unfortunately, it's kind of combined 2 ideas that I don't think were ever supposed to be put together in the first place. Like life insurance is life insurance and investing is investing. They're 2 opposite things, really, if you think about it. Like capitalizing your infinite banking system is you're putting money on your side that you have access to at any time. Investing is you're sending money out. You're sending money away from you. So they're 2 very different actions in general. So don't try to make them do too many things at once.
And I'll correct you that, and I know that you know this, but the listeners are going to pick it apart. So the stock market wasn't invented. The stock market was always there, right? But what Tris is trying to say is 401ks and IRAs started in 74 and 80. And so that's when all these UL products came very shortly after because people were chasing the rate of return.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So don't want you to get obliterated online.
Yes, I appreciate that.
I was watching for the Keyboard Warriors. You're 100% right. Like we jumped to a different product, but now we have to make sure we understand those products like IRAs, 401ks, Roths. We also need to make sure we understand those products. But when you have these yahoos out there that are saying, oh, borrow cash value to put extra money in year 1. Okay. Not a horrible strategy if you know that money to repay that loan is going to come back to you in a very short manner. If it's a timing issue, great, fantastic. I have borrowed cash value to pay my premium because I didn't have the money at the time to pay it. It was a timing issue. I did not look at that as if it was an arbitrage situation to say long term, I never pay this loan back, we'll be okay. But because there are a lot of crappy bankers out there, meaning people that read about infinite banking, they get excited about it, they buy a policy, and then they never pay attention to it again. Okay. So you people should not have a bank. Like you should not be bankers. You're not going to go downtown, buy a bank, build the building, and then you never walk in it again. You started it, you put a deposit down, and you're like, well, we'll see how it goes. No, you don't walk into your bank once a year that you own. You open more branches. You pay attention to it. You hire employees. You build on it, right? And so You have to pay attention. Unfortunately, because there are a lot of people on social media that are doing a really, really good job marketing, and they have these great groups of people following them that just trust. This is the problem. You don't trust anyone. You don't trust Tarisa and I. By God, if you don't do your research before you come to us or after you come to us and you don't ask us hard questions, then are you really doing your due diligence? There are people that will ask me questions that I'm like, wow, that's a good question. And I don't hear it often enough. Where does a life insurance company put money? How do they make money? Mary Jo, how do you make money? I don't care. I'll tell you how I make money. I have no problem telling you that I get paid commission. If we can't answer those questions, then what else are we holding back?
Well, and also those are the better clients. The people that are taking the time to really study something and ask those hard questions, they're going to be so much more successful with implementing this process because they care enough to pay attention, right? Where if someone's just like, oh, I don't have any questions, I'm like, I don't know if you're ready for a policy.
Right, because they'll say, oh, Mary Jo, I trust you. And I said, that's great, but I don't want you to trust me because Mary Jo trusted people in the past and got screwed. So I don't want you to trust me. I want you to learn from my lesson, and I want you to be a Tarisa that reads the contract. Okay? Like, did I read the contract? No. Did I have people ask me about the contract? Yes. And we've talked about that, I think, in just a recent podcast that you've read the contract. There is nothing wrong with that. That is that if your agent is upset because you've read the contract or you've read the illustration, then you should be alarmed that your agent is upset. Why would they be upset? Why do they feel like they got caught in something? Or if they can't answer a question that's in the illustration or in the contract, there are times where I'm like, gosh, I've never seen that in the contract. I don't know. Let me ask home office about it. Right. And so, and this is something interesting to just share is early on, I was told and I trusted, huge mistake. I've trusted people in this industry that I should not have trusted. And so everybody walks around. It's a 4% rate of return back in the day, right? It's a 4% rate of return. So when we talk to these agents, everybody past years are like, oh, you're getting 4%, you're getting 4%, you're getting 4% plus a dividend. And so I had a client that said, can I see that in the contract? And I was like, well, that's a good question. And I knew it was contractual, right? I didn't need to see it. I knew that. And so when you read the contract, it says 4% gross. And I'm like, what? Gross? Nobody's ever said that before. They talk about they just say 4%. And so then I had to make my little phone call to the insurance company and ask someone that knows stuff at the insurance company, not the person that answers the phone, but like the higher ups, right? The people in the actuarial department. I'm like, what does this mean gross? And they're like, well, it's 4% gross, Mary Jo. That's not the net. That we have to take out administration costs because we have a building. We have to take out cost of insurance. All these things have to come out of that 4% gross. Like, oh, nobody ever told me that. None of my mentors had ever mentioned that until a client saw, or until I had to show the client in the actual, I think it was in the illustration, not even the contract, where it says 4% gross. And so if you're not looking at, or if you're not doing your due diligence, when we go to an IUL, if we're not asking those questions, well, this is an assumption. They're going to go back and say, well, this is what history has done. Okay, so if this is what history has done, how long has this IUL product been in existence and how far out in history are you going? Because if the IUL product is 10 years, but you're going out 20 for the history, where did the other 10 years of history come from? Because this product didn't exist then, right? So are we misrepresenting that as well? If we're not asking about interest and how that works, if we're not asking what happens when we take a loan on an IUL policy, what happens to that money? Does it go to a side account? Does it get credited the same as it would as if there was no loan? Do my dividends get paid out the same? Is it a direct or non-direct recognition, which is a whole nother podcast? So what if we're not doing our due diligence on that, then we're just trusting somebody. And we're trusting somebody in the case of what we're talking about, that's not even licensed. So there are individuals that are licensed that are equally as dangerous. This individual isn't licensed, right? We're just probably getting some kind of referral thing. And we're just making a whole bunch of money, and we have a whole pack of people coming up after us, hoping and praying that, this all works out.
Well, I think
nobody goes to jail. Nobody goes to jail.
That is the danger, I think, of great marketing, is that people, if you get certain talking heads behind an idea, everyone trusts that person because they're successful. And it's like, well, great, but are they going to verify that this actually works out for people? I don't know. And I always have my own best interest like high up there. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well,
as you should.
This impacts my family. This impacts our future. So yes, I am going to make an informed decision. Yes, I'm going to ask a lot of questions, but also I need to make sure that this is going to work out for what I intend it to. And that means that you need to read the fine print. I'm sorry, but it just does. I know that it's annoying sometimes, but there's so many things that people put in there that are important for you to realize, like, okay, I am willing to take on this risk for this benefit, or I'm willing to sign this contract, right? Like Mary Jo said, I read my entire whole life insurance contract before I signed it, and I asked all the questions that I didn't understand, and I probably annoyed my agent. But I felt so confident going into signing that policy because I had all of my questions answered, and I still felt like, yes, this is contractually guaranteed to me, and I can see on the guaranteed column that it's not going to go down to zero. So it's important. It's important. And I would say, I don't know. I always think like get rich quick things are suspicious anyways.
7, 8, 9% rates of return should be alarming.
Yeah.
If people are using that, it's alarming. You and I both use the Truth Concepts calculators, and he has the market history in there. You can Google it, for the love of Pete, and go, what is the market history since 1901? And it'll show you what's the average return of the market history since 1901. What's the since 1930, since whatever, right? You can go back 20 years. We can go to our best years, and we're going to be at what, 7, 6, 7 maybe? But they're using 7, 8, and 9? What? Why are they doing so much better? And are these index funds actually returning that? Is it the actual return, like you said before, or is it the average return? There is a difference between average and actual, right? We can say Mary Jo's weight averages, and then we can say what's her actual weight, okay? That is not the same. And so if we, and you can go back and be like, and Mary Jo was skinny, it averaged X amount, but now that she's getting chunky, it's actually this. I mean, think about it, you guys. That might sound funny, but it's such a real thing that we don't think about. On average, how much cash do you have in your account versus actually how much cash do you have in your account? Knowing how this stuff works and asking those questions, the more a client wants to know, the happier I am, because they are going to be good bankers. Mm-hmm. The more they call me, the more I like them because they're good bankers. What happens is when we start our bank, we open our bank doors and we never walk back into it till it's completely falling apart. We're like, how come our bank isn't standing? Because you never paid a loan back. Because you kept taking and you never repaired anything. Like, you can't just live in your house and never, ever fix anything. Eventually, I got family that does that. Okay. Their gutters are falling off. Their electrical stuff isn't working. Their plumbing is questionable. And they're like, we're just leaving. Okay. But you're going to get less for your house, right? Like, you need to keep that up. If you don't fix all that stuff, well, guess what happens to cash value? It falls apart slowly. And then you're going to have to put all this money back in to get it back to whole. This isn't rocket science, but it's not sexy. It's not flashy. It's not about a rate of return. It's not about borrowing money to pay premium. We're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. This is insane that people are being buffaloed and they're just following, which is a really good example also of society just being a bunch of sheep.
I was going to say that.
It's not even sheep. Like, I learned a few years ago that buffalo, they're like dumber than sheep. So sheep will at least run with their head up, like, oh, I'm going to follow everybody. And we've actually had to chase our neighbors had sheep. Dumbest. I have never encountered sheep ever until our neighbors had sheep and they were out all the time. And so one day we had to put them in and my husband's holding the fence open and they just go right through the fence in a whole different spot. Who cares that the gate's open for you to run through? Nope. And one went through the electric fence and every single one of them followed. I'm like, you are the dumbest animals I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, buffalo are actually dumber because they run with their heads down. And so if the first buffalo goes off the cliff, they don't even know there's a cliff coming.
Oh no.
Because they didn't see them disappear because their head's down.
So don't be a buffalo or a sheep. So just don't be closing your eyes and letting someone pull what is the phrase? Wool over your eyes.
Yeah. Are you running around with your head in the sand and you're just following somebody to the point where you're not even looking up to see what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And they've been off the cliff. There's so many people that flew off the cliff in front of you and you're not even seeing it because you're not watching. Now, if you've come here, you're probably doing your due diligence. So thanks for being here. If you haven't come here, you're probably not doing your due diligence and you're blindly following those people. I'm sorry. It's going to be a hard lesson to learn 25, 30, 35 years down the road when you've stuck a bunch of money into this IUL and it's not doing what it's supposed to do. Now, if you are listening, if you have an IUL, you need to ask your agent for an in-force illustration every single year. Get an in-force based on, write this down. Go get yourself a little notepad, open your phone. If your very first illustration, you save that sucker and you print it out or you save it in an email and ask for it. Here's another thing that blows me away is when people buy a policy, their agent doesn't keep the very first illustration that they get. Oh, I have every one of my clients' illustrations. If they want it, we'll email it to them. And you get it with your policy packet. But if you have your very first in-force illustration and it says it was run at 7%, your in-force better be run at 7%. What I'm seeing is people's initial illustration was run at 8 or 9 and their in-force is run at 6 or 7. And I'm like, why isn't it the same as the beginning? Why are we changing our rates of return? Or maybe the first one was run low and it's not performing like we want it to, so we're going to run the next one higher. No, every in-force illustration should be run exactly like the first one or the year before so that you can see what's happening year to year and compare them. Is it going up like they said it was? Is it going down? Is it averaging? What's happening to the fees and the charges? Save your statements every year and watch the fees and the charges. Are they going up? Are they going down? Are they staying the same? We need to, if you're going to have those policies, I want you to really, really look at what is happening so that you can say, oh, Mary Jo and Tarisa aren't a bunch of morons. And they do know what's going on. They have warned us about this stuff versus saying, well, I think they said it. I don't know. Get in-force illustrations. My clients ask for in-force illustrations all the time.
It's
I
important.
run them, I send them. I am 100% confident in them. I don't have anything to worry about. But when your agent starts manipulating or asking why you want an in-force illustration, again, that's alarming why your agent would care.
Well, and here's the thing. People work really hard for the dollars that they earn, whether you're a business owner or W-2 or blue collar, whatever the case may be, it pays to pay attention. So don't work that much or that hard for money and then not care about where it's going. That doesn't make any sense to me. I remember having a conversation with my husband. I'm like, how do people just so happily hand over money without like asking any questions when you spend your entire life like you need to make a living, right? You spend your entire life and a lot of time making sure that you can put food on the table and all that stuff. But when it comes to asking hard questions, you just do something because your brother-in-law does it or because everyone else around you is doing it. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's what's right for you in particular. So do your due diligence, make sure that you're asking those hard questions. And like Mary Jo said, if you do have something like that, ask for the in-force illustration, look at the guaranteed column, and just make sure that it's doing what you want it to.
And we all just want easy because we're so overwhelmed with raising kids and taking them to activities and, all the things and making supper and cleaning house and doing all the things and barely surviving and going to work to a job we hate. And we don't know how to get out of the rat race. And so we just quit caring at some point. I mean, I think that there are people in this world that say, how can I make that different? And there are people that are just like, oh, that's just how it is. And it's a 97-3 split, in my opinion. I don't have facts for that. But I just think that 97% of the people don't care. They're just going to do what Uncle Joe says that they should do because, Uncle Joe had more money than I did. And Uncle Joe maybe had $100,000 instead of 20. But it's all perspective. If I make 20, 100 is a lot, right? That person is rich to me. And so I think that people just need to really start caring or at least figuring in this is what's important. Like there's a guy on, and I know you don't watch a ton of TikTok, but there's this guy that's on TikTok and I don't know what his name is, but he talks to people that have just no clue about how much debt they have. Mm-hmm. And they're in this debt and it's actually such a frustrating video to watch. Like you just want to come through the screen and just strangle some of these people. And he almost does. Like
is it the guy that's spicy? He's like not very nice to them.
Well,
he's like very animated. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Because, and rightfully so, I'm like, gosh, he used to be nice in these videos and now he just gets mean. And if you can't pay your bills or you don't know that you don't have money, why are you even spending money? I mean, I have friends that their way of getting out of a depression type anxiety or they're sad is to go shopping and they're sad about not having money. So then they go shopping. That's like me being like, oh, I'm sad about being heavy. So I'm going to go eat some more. What? How is that? I'm mad because I'm fat. So let's go have ice cream. What? Like that doesn't work. Like you can't do that. Right?
Well, it feels good in the moment. And then like, I think I love this saying so much and I'm going to really work my brain cells to remember it. But it's like short-term solutions usually give you long-term problems and long-term solutions long-term solutions like help you mitigate like avoiding long-term problems. Yeah. So I always like to think about future Tarisa, like how am I setting her up? Because she's really my best friend. So I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I have future Tarisa in mind when I do this thing. And sometimes that means working out when I don't feel like it or not going shopping because I feel like it.
Right. Yeah. I have a really good friend that was decorating my house and I hate spending money on decor, like hate it. And I was just being cheap and I was like, no, I don't want that. And I don't want that. And she's like trying to help me decorate. Right. And she'd send me stuff. I'm like, that is way too expensive. I'm not spending that kind of money. And so we went to this place in town that's got really nice stuff, but super expensive. And she's like, if I had your kind of money, I would buy all my stuff here. And I said, and then you wouldn't have my kind of money because you spent it all on furniture. And like the reality of it is like, that's really nice, but nobody comes to our house. And so, we might have people a couple of times a year because there's rules when you come to my house, like you should leave by 10 is one of the rules because I have to go to bed.
That's actually late. I'm upset if people are at my house past 9. I'm like, all right. I'm looking at my watch real obviously. Like, oh, it's getting really late.
Yeah. So,
I'm tired.
Yeah. So we don't have a lot of gatherings, but it really is like there are just some people that is their solution. And if we don't care, you're going to just follow everybody else. And do you really want to be a buffalo or a sheep or whatever? Do you really want to be the 93%? Or if you're super frustrated, can you have the long-term thought process? Can you learn all this stuff? And it's a lot to learn. I had a client a few years ago that he didn't know anything about anything. Like he was so new to finance and he was just eagerly soaking up as much as he could. And I thought, that's super interesting because I forgot about being at that point. I forgot about not knowing what equity was, not knowing what the word capital meant. Because I was there. At one point in my life, someone said to me, well, do you have any capital? I'm like, what does that mean? And he's like, well, do you have any money on hand? I'm like, well, why don't you say that? Why do you got to get all fancy? And
You're
use
like
the word
capital
capital.
M for Mary Jo?
Yeah.
Every time I write my name. That's funny.
But why, we use, and I try really, really hard not to use those words and not to get deep into the financial piece with some people, because if they're new to it, so many people just want to make themselves sound so smart instead of helping those people come up. But there is a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn about cash flow and, what passive income means and what is a lie about passive income and all the things that go into it. And they think, well, I'm not smart enough, when in fact you are. And so I think that a lot of times they're just like, well, I'm not smart enough, or it causes me to hyperventilate. I had a lady in my office one day, she was literally hyperventilating because of money. And I'm like, it's not that scary. Money's not scary. It's the fact that you don't know money that's scary. It's the unknown.
Right.
But as soon as you understand it, you understand how to make it, you understand how to handle it, more just comes to you. And so, yeah, just do your due diligence. But we got way off topic. Back to this Yahoo who thinks that borrowing it and not telling the truth about what's happening with the loans. And this was not just a clip you saw. Like, this wasn't like a social media clip that didn't have the whole story, right?
His strategy. This is just his strategy that he's teaching
people. But you
people.
saw a lengthy video, I saw, right?
Yeah.
So we're not making an assumption, because I don't like when people do that either. They make an assumption based on a 2-minute clip on social media that this isn't being told. You watched a very long strategy session that this was not disclosed.
Well, and this is this guy's whole strategy is teaching people to take the max loan, overfunding their current policy. And it's like, that's not a strategy that is going to work out well for whoever is using it. And it's actually really dangerous because you're stealing the peas, you're not accounting for interest cost. And it's like, well, what if the market doesn't do what it's supposed to? What if there's so many different circumstances that can happen with this strategy that allow it to not work out in the way that it's marketed, which is the danger of it, right? Because even if things work out according to plan, well, guess what's not fixed? The cost of insurance. So it's like, well, how's that going to pan out when you're 86? It's like, cost of insurance isn't cheap. So where's that money coming from, especially if you have a loan that has been paid back and all of these things. So Mary Jo and I,
disheartening.
because it's like,
upsetting, and it all comes down to 4 things, you guys: liquidity, control, guarantees, and uninterrupted compound interest. It's that simple. And there's only one thing that gives us those 4 things, and it's dividend paying whole life. That's it. Okay.
mic drop.
Okay. Well, then we're done with that podcast. Pod. Oh my gosh. If you guys don't know the background against that, you'll probably hear it later. But, we go over to Farming Without the Bank and listen to that podcast from last week or whenever, a couple weeks ago. I don't even remember the name of it, but I'm too old to shorten words. Tarisa, however, is young enough. She shortens words. All right. If you guys have comments, questions, concerns, email either one of us, Mary Jo at Without the Bank or Tarisa at Without the Bank. If you want to meet with us, read the book, schedule your appointment, and we'll be happy to help. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next podcast.